My name is Evelyn Shaw. I'm 67 years old, and 3 weeks ago, my own daughter tricked me into giving up my home, my freedom, and almost my mind, all with a fake smile and a weekend getaway. It started with a phone call on a Thursday. "Mom, you've been pushing yourself too hard," Lena said. "Let me treat you to a little spa weekend. Just us girls. You deserve it." I didn't suspect anything. She was my daughter, my only child. The one I stayed up with through asthma attacks and first heartbreaks. The one I walked across the stage when she got her business degree because her father had passed just 6 months earlier. I was the one who stayed. So no, I didn't pack much. Just a small overnight bag and my book of crossword puzzles. I left the porch light on because I thought I'd be home by Sunday, but I didn't go to a spa. We drove 2 hours out of the city to what Lena called a private wellness center. The building was beige with blue shutters and a red brick awning, the kind that tries hard to look like a hotel but smells like bleach and resignation. "I booked us for a short wellness check," Lena said sweetly. "Just some rest, maybe a nutrition consult." She hugged me in the lobby, kissed my cheek, and told the front desk I'd check in alone while she parked. She never came back. When I asked the nurse where my daughter went, she looked confused. "She left, Miss Shaw. Said you'd be staying with us full time." I laughed. I thought it was a mistake. But then they handed me paperwork with my name on it. Documents I didn't remember signing. Boxes checked for medical consent, residential observation, and the one that made my stomach twist. Incapacitated status, pending review. I told them I was fine. I told them there must be some confusion. And they told me, "Ma'am, your daughter said you've been struggling with memory and judgment. She's your legal contact." The walls felt like they were closing in. My voice cracked when I asked to call Lena. The receptionist dialed. Voicemail. Again. And again. By nightfall, my phone was taken for safety reasons. They said it was policy. I laid in a twin bed I didn't choose under a quilt that smelled like detergent and dust, staring at the speckled ceiling. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I asked a different nurse if I could call someone else. My lawyer, my neighbor, anyone. She gave me a tight smile and said she'd have to check with the care coordinator. On day 3, I overheard a staff member say to another, "She's one of the quiet ones. Those are usually easier to manage." Manage. Like I was some project, some burden. They served me applesauce and called it lunch. They knocked before entering like they were polite but never waited for permission. And I started to notice something else. The staff never used my name. Just hon or ma'am or darling. The same way you talk to someone you assume won't remember it anyway. On day 4, I finally got a visitor. Not Lena. Not even my grandson, Jude. It was a young staff member. She looked barely 25, who came to drop off a folded sweater and accidentally left behind a packet of printed papers. I didn't mean to snoop, but one of the pages caught my eye. It had my address, my house, my name, and a line at the top that read, "Pending transfer of ownership, Shaw Property Holdings, LLC." I felt the blood drain from my face. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about my health. It wasn't about wellness. It wasn't about care. It was about taking everything I built. My daughter didn't send me here because I was slipping. She sent me here because I wasn't. And if she thought I'd just sit quietly in this place and fade away, she didn't know me at all. Because right then, staring at a signature I didn't write on a house I still legally owned, I stopped being scared, and I started planning. I didn't sleep that night. I sat up in the stiff vinyl chair by the window, clutching the printout with my name on it, reading the same line over and over again. Pending transfer of ownership. Shaw Property Holdings, LLC. I didn't know what that meant exactly. But I knew my house didn't belong to any company. It was mine. Bought with the life insurance money from my late husband and 22 years of night shifts at Mercy General. I raised Lena in that house. Painted the walls pale green when she was born, replaced the front door myself after a break-in when she was in middle school, cried in that kitchen when her father died. That house wasn't just property, it was memory. It was mine. And now they were stealing it. I asked the morning nurse if I could speak with the facilities administrator. She gave me a look I recognized, the kind you give someone you think is going to be difficult. But she set the appointment. At 11 a.m., I was wheeled, yes, wheeled, into a beige office that smelled like printer ink and denial. A woman named Cheryl, with a clipboard and tight smile, welcomed me like I was a confused guest at a retirement seminar. "I believe there's been a mistake," I said calmly. "I didn't agree to live here. I'm not ill. I'm not incapacitated. And someone is tampering with my property." Cheryl's smile faded a little. She opened a file, flipped through a few sheets, and said, "Your daughter Lena signed the consent for extended placement. She's your designated medical proxy." "No," I said, sharper this time. "I never gave her that right. Where's the power of attorney paperwork?" She hesitated, just long enough for me to know the answer. "It's on file, signed electronically." "Show it to me." She tapped her keyboard, pulled up a scanned PDF, and there it was. My name, my signature. Except it wasn't my signature. The loops were wrong. The E wasn't mine. I sign every Christmas card the same way. I know what my own damn name looks like. "That's a forgery," I said. "And if you don't help me report it, you'll be part of the case too." Her mouth opened, then closed. I could feel my heart pounding in my ears, but I didn't break. I didn't beg. I just stared. I was released from the meeting with a promise of follow-up and review. But I knew that meant stall, delay, wear me down. They still thought I was old and easy to brush aside. They didn't realize I had nothing left to lose. That night, I faked a stomach ache. When the night nurse offered to bring me ginger tea, I asked instead for a pen and notebook. "I like to journal," I told her. She smiled, probably picturing poetry or letters to long-dead lovers. What I wrote instead were facts. The full name and address of the property Lena was trying to transfer. My social security number. My old utility account numbers. The contact info of my lawyer, Mr. Rains, who hadn't heard from me in years, but always told me, "If anything ever seems off, you call me direct." I didn't have a phone, but I had something better. The next morning, during the open rec hour, I slipped the notebook into the pocket of an older gentleman named Don who had visiting privileges. He liked to brag about his daughter being a judge. I asked him to drop it in the mail for me. He winked and said, "Reckon you're not as helpless as they think." 3 days later, a nurse came to my room, breathless, cheeks flushed. "There's a man here. Said he's your attorney. Wouldn't leave the lobby." I stood up before she finished the sentence. They tried to stop him at the desk, but he pushed past like he belonged there. And when he saw me, he didn't hug me. He didn't cry. He said one thing. "Evelyn, your house is still in your name, but your daughter filed a quitclaim deed last week. We need to move. Now." I blinked. "Wait, what does that mean?" "It means she's trying to sell it, Evelyn. She's selling your house while you're still alive." My knees went weak, but I didn't fall, because somewhere deep inside me, past the betrayal, past the ache, something woke up. Not rage, not revenge, clarity. If she thought she could bury me in paperwork and padded hallways, she was about to find out just how wrong she was. It was raining the day I got out. Mr. Rains drove me himself. Said he didn't trust anyone else. I stepped out of that wellness center with a paper bag full of clothes that didn't fit and a spine straighter than it had been in weeks. No one at the front desk said goodbye. No one met my eyes. And I didn't look back. I thought I was going home. But when we pulled up to my house, the place I raised Lena, the place where my husband's ashes still sat in the mantelpiece urn, there was a stranger's car in the driveway. And music. I don't mean soft jazz or gospel radio. I mean loud, window-rattling music. Trap beats, bass so deep it shook my chest. Mr. Rains parked across the street. He looked at me and said, "Evelyn, We may have a situation. We stepped out. The front yard had changed. My rose bushes were gone, dug up, replaced by artificial turf and 2 concrete flamingos. Flamingos. In my yard. I walked up the porch, my key still in hand. But when I slid it into the lock, it didn't turn. She changed the locks. The door swung open before I could knock. A young woman, maybe mid-20s, wearing biker shorts and holding a protein shake, blinked at me like I was the intruder. Can I help you? I looked past her. My dining table was gone. My family photos. Even the clock that used to chime every hour. My name is Evelyn Shaw, I said, my voice low but steady. This is my home. She blinked again. Oh, no? I think you've got the wrong address. We rent this place now, through some trust company. I didn't respond. I just turned to Mr. Rains. She leased my house. Not legally, he muttered, but she's here now. We need a court order to get her out. I didn't say another word. I turned, walked down the steps, and back into the car. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there while something inside me broke, and something else started to build in its place. We checked the records that night. Lena had created a shell company, Shaw Horizon Holdings, LLC. She filed the quitclaim deed under that name, used forged documentation, claimed I was unfit and in long-term care, so she had implied authority to act on my behalf. It was fraud, plain and simple. But you know what hurt the most? The voicemail I got the next day. Mom, I know you're out. I hope you're okay. But you can't just show up like that. It's too much. You don't understand how hard things have been for me and Jude. I had to make some decisions. You were becoming a burden. A burden. I raised her with hands that bled. Cleaned motel rooms after my nursing shifts just to pay for her textbooks. Held her through every panic attack. Sold my engagement ring to help with her divorce. But now I was a burden. I sat in that motel room, holding my phone, listening to her voice over and over. Not because I missed her, but because I wanted to remember exactly who she became. The next day, Mr. Rains filed an emergency injunction to block the property transfer and a civil suit for elder exploitation. I filed a police report too, but I wasn't done. I didn't want to go back to that house anymore. It had been gutted, not just the furniture, but the soul. Instead, I asked Mr. Rains to find out where Lena had moved with Jude. He hesitated. Why? You don't want to go after her, do you? I looked him dead in the eye. Number I want to live next door. He blinked. You're not serious. Oh, I'm deadly serious. 3 days later, we found it. A newly renovated townhouse in a quiet cul-de-sac. Just listed for sale, because the couple next door was divorcing and eager to move. I bought it in full, under my maiden name. No mortgage, no warning. They didn't even see me coming. And the first morning I moved in, I sat on the front steps in a floral sundress, sipping sweet tea like nothing had happened. Lena opened her blinds, then froze. She looked me dead in the eyes, and I smiled. The first week living next door to my daughter was oddly quiet. Lena didn't come over, didn't knock, didn't call. But I saw her. She'd open her blinds, catch a glimpse of me watering my lavender, then close them like she'd seen a ghost. Jude would sometimes glance in my direction on his way to school. Hesitant, backpack slung low. He didn't wave, but he didn't look away either. I didn't try to talk to them. Not yet. I had other things to do. First, I met with Mr. Rains again. We reviewed every forged document Lena had filed. She hadn't just tried to transfer the house. She'd siphoned money from my pension account too. Small amounts spread out over months. Enough to avoid raising alarms. Until now. Second, we filed a formal motion for property repossession and financial restitution. Not just against the LLC she created, but against her personally. You sure you want to go this hard? Mr. Rains asked. I looked him square in the face. She didn't hesitate when she erased me. Why should I flinch now? He nodded once. Then let's take it all the way. We served her the papers the following Monday. I didn't watch it happen, but my neighbor Frank did. He told me she stood in the doorway in her pajamas, reading the envelope over and over like the words would change. Jude peeked from behind her shoulder. She slammed the door so hard it shook the front wreath loose. 2 days later, I got a voicemail from her. I don't know what you're trying to prove, Mom, but you're destroying everything. You're making it worse for Jude. Just stop, please. I didn't reply, because I remembered exactly how it felt to sit in that care facility, holding a paper with my name forged at the bottom. I remembered the nurse who took my phone, the empty bed, the cold, practiced sympathy of the staff. I remembered the silence. And now it was her turn to sit in it. But I wasn't finished. The couple renting my old house, the ones who thought they'd scored a great deal, broke the lease the same week we filed the fraud report. Mr. Raines offered them a settlement to leave peacefully, and they took it. No fuss. No drama. By Friday, the house was empty again. I could have moved back in, but I didn't want to. That house wasn't my home anymore. It was a monument to everything I lost, and everything I survived. Instead, I cleaned it from top to bottom, scrubbed the baseboards, swept the corners, light candles in every room. Not for nostalgia, but for closure. And then, I listed it. Full market value. Cash buyers only. It sold in 4 days. The new owners? A sweet older couple in their 60s, retired school teachers who said it felt like a home with a soul. I handed them the keys with steady hands and walked back to my house, the one next door, in silence. Lena didn't know yet. She still thought I might return, that maybe I'd forgive her quietly, slip back into her version of normal. Until the day I saw her pacing on her porch, phone pressed to her ear, voice shrill. I don't understand, she shouted. The buyers said they just closed. How is that possible? I thought she was moving back. She froze when she saw me. I waved, and she dropped her phone. But that wasn't the twist. The twist came 2 nights later when Jude knocked on my door. He was wearing sweatpants, hoodie half-zipped, hair a little messy, like he hadn't slept well in days. Can I come in? He asked. I opened the door wide. We sat at the kitchen table. I poured him hot cocoa, just like I used to when he was little and scared of thunderstorms. He didn't touch it right away. Instead, he reached into his backpack and pulled out a flash drive. I found this in Mom's desk, he said quietly. It has the emails, the bank transfers, even the fake signature scans. I stared at him. I think she was going to do it again, he whispered. To someone else. I took a deep breath. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was bigger. The flash drive Jude gave me changed everything. It wasn't just 1 or 2 documents. It was a digital graveyard of every lie Lena had told, every transfer she thought no one would notice, bank records, forged signatures, emails to her financial advisor about clearing out unclaimed elder assets. She wasn't just trying to take my house. She was trying to build an entire life on the backs of women like me. Women she thought no one would fight for. I stared at that screen until my hands went cold. I wanted to throw the laptop across the room. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I saved every file. And I called Mr. Raines. 3 days later, we walked into the DA's office with a thick folder and a quiet determination. He handled the legalese. I sat beside him, still, calm but burning inside. They opened a formal investigation into Lena's dealings, not just with me, but with 3 other women whose names I'd found buried in the documents. She had a pattern, and she was sloppy. 2 weeks later, Lena was arrested. Fraud, elder exploitation, falsifying legal records. It wasn't dramatic. No handcuffs in the driveway, no screaming. Just a quiet knock on her door and 2 officers asking her to come with them. Jude was at my house when it happened. He didn't say anything. Just looked down at his hands, then up at me. I didn't want to ruin her, he whispered. She's still my mom. I nodded, my voice barely holding together. And I'm still yours too, baby. Just in a different way. The trial didn't last long. The evidence was airtight. The courtroom was cold, clinical. Lena didn't cry. She didn't look at me once. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, I didn't smile. I just closed my eyes and let the silence fall around me like a blanket. She got 3 years probation, mandatory restitution, and a ban from managing finances for anyone but herself. It wasn't prison, but it was public. It was permanent. Her real estate license was suspended. Her name was printed in the local paper next to the words, exploitation and breach of fiduciary duty. I heard she moved to a different state afterward, quietly, alone. And I didn't follow. Instead, I lived. Jude moved in full-time. We painted the back fence bright yellow, grew tomatoes in the spring and marigolds in the fall. He joined a youth program for legal advocacy, said he wanted to help other families someday. I told him I'd help fund his first internship, no strings attached. And then I did something no one expected. I started a foundation, the Shaw Circle, for women over 60 who'd been financially abused by family members. We offered legal help, housing support, even digital literacy workshops so no one else would sign something they didn't understand. I donated every penny I got from selling my old house. Not because I was generous, but because I wanted my story to mean something. Sometimes I still sit on the porch with my tea, watching the neighborhood pass by. It's quieter now. No blinds snapping shut. No fake smiles across driveways. Just peace. And one morning, not long ago, I opened the mailbox to find a card. No return address. Inside, a single sentence handwritten in Lena's careful, slanted print. You were never a burden. I was just too weak to carry the truth. I didn't cry. I didn't write back. Some things don't need responses, because I'm not who I was when this started. I'm not the quiet woman they wheeled into a locked room. I'm not the scared mother begging her daughter to explain. I'm the woman who walked herself back out and built a life from scratch. This time, with both eyes open. Betrayal doesn't always come from hatred. Sometimes it comes from the people you loved enough to trust blindly. And sometimes the strongest form of revenge is choosing to live loudly and fully without needing their apology. If you've ever been through something like this, with a child, a parent, or someone you thought would never hurt you, share your story in the comments. You never know who might find strength in your words. And if this story sat heavy in your chest the way it did in mine, feel free to stick around. Subscribe if you'd like. I'll be here, not to stay angry, but to remind us all, we were never the burden.